Imagine you donate a parent's body to Harvard Medical School so future doctors can learn. You trust one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. Years later, you get a letter. Parts of that body may have been stolen, taken home, and sold to collectors. Faces, brains, skin that someone wanted tanned into leather. That is not a movie plot. That is what happened at Harvard. This week, Harvard agreed to a $53 million class action settlement with families of anatomical donors. A Massachusetts judge granted preliminary approval. Two funds will compensate relatives of people whose remains were donated between 2018 and March 2023. Harvard does not admit legal liability. It has also pledged a live webinar for families, calling the crimes morally reprehensible, and will create a new annual scholarship honoring anatomical donors starting in the 2027-28 school year. The central figure is Cedric Lodge. He managed the morgue for Harvard Medical School's Anatomical Gift Program for nearly 30 years, starting in 1995. After donated bodies were used for teaching and research, they were supposed to be cremated or returned. Instead, prosecutors say Lodge removed organs, brains, dissected heads, faces, skin, hands, and other parts, drove them to his home in Goffstown, New Hampshire, and sold them with his wife, Denise Lodge. Payments went through PayPal and similar channels. One buyer paid tens of thousands of dollars over several years. Lodge even let at least one buyer into the morgue itself to pick what they wanted. The activity ran from about 2018 into 2022. Harvard has said it did not know and that Lodge acted without the school's permission. What Lodge was feeding was not some hidden dark web dungeon. It was a real, semi-open marketplace that already existed. There are actually two overlapping trades. The first is the body broker industry, for-profit companies that take donated bodies, often with the promise of free cremation, cut them up, and sell or rent the parts to medical device firms, surgical training courses, universities, and even the military. Investigations have shown this is a large, barely regulated business. A whole body can go for several $1,000s. A head or spine can be priced in the thousands. Critics call it a modern form of grave robbing with better paperwork. The second is the oddities and collector market. This is where Lodge's parts actually landed. Private buyers and small shops want skulls, wet specimens, dissected faces, skin, fetal remains, and bones for display, art, or creepy dolls. Facebook groups operate in the open. Instagram and TikTok shops post photos. Brick-and-mortar oddities stores sell skeletons and skulls. An adult skull might list for a few hundred to a couple $1,000s. Human skin tanned into leather is especially prized. There is almost no federal law stopping this as long as the remains are not for transplant and are not Native American. Only about 8 states have broad bans on selling human remains. In most of the country, enforcement is rare and the rules are confusing. That is why Lodge and the others were charged with interstate transport of stolen goods. The crime was the theft from the donation programs, not selling bones itself. Lodge's crime was turning Harvard's donated cadavers, bodies given in trust for teaching, into inventory for that collector market. The same federal investigation that caught Lodge also hit an Arkansas mortuary worker, Candace Chapman Scott. She was supposed to cremate cadavers from the University of Arkansas Medical School. Instead, she sold boxes of parts through Facebook to a Pennsylvania dealer named Jeremy Pauley for roughly $11,000. Pauley was a known figure in the oddities world. He bound books in human skin and preserved fetal remains. Prosecutors later said he made hundreds of thousands of dollars in the trade. He was sentenced to 6 years. His wife turned him in after finding 5-gallon buckets of organs in the basement. Katrina McLean, owner of Cat's Creepy Creations in Peabody, Massachusetts, sat in the middle. Lodge let her into the Harvard morgue to pick parts. She paid $600 for 2 dissected faces. She shipped skin to Pauley so he could tan it into leather, then displayed and resold remains through her shop and social media. She pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 2 years. The same week, Harvard's $53 million settlement was announced. Another buyer, Joshua Taylor of Pennsylvania, sent tens of thousands of dollars via PayPal to Denise Lodge with memos like head number 7 and brains. This was not a one-off Harvard scandal. It was one pipeline into a market that already had demand, buyers, shipping methods, and almost no paperwork. The FBI notified Harvard in March 2023. Lodge was fired. He and others were indicted that June. Harvard suspended body donations for months and commissioned an external review of the anatomical gift program. Lodge pleaded guilty in 2025 to interstate transport of stolen goods. In December 2025, he was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Denise Lodge received a year and a day. Other co-conspirators also pleaded guilty and received prison time. This is where the story stops being a crime report and becomes something much heavier. Relatives received letters saying their loved ones might have been among the roughly 400 to 438 donors in the relevant window. Many will never know for certain which specific remains were taken. Daughters of Adele Mazone described feeling their mother had lost her dignity even in death. One said she now looks at the ashes differently. Sisters of Nicholas Pichowitz, a former deputy sheriff who donated his body, said they felt sick when they learned. Who could do something like that? What kind of person, one asked. Another family member described a terrible feeling of anger and sadness and questions that will never be fully answered. Several said they still support body donation in principle, but feel betrayed by the lack of safeguards. Lawsuits accused Harvard of negligence and failure to protect remains entrusted to it. An earlier dismissal was later reversed by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, which described the treatment as remains that were ghoulishly dismembered and sold for profit. A third-party administrator will notify potential class members and handle claims. Distribution of the $53 million is expected to take months. Final court approval is scheduled for December 2026. Harvard has said it has already made changes to the anatomical gift program after the 2023 review. The school's deans wrote that Lodge's sentencing and this settlement do not end the process of recovering from this painful incident. The case raises larger questions that go beyond one employee. How do elite institutions oversee programs that accept the most intimate gift a person can give? What records, cameras, and chain of custody rules actually exist after a body has been used for teaching? And what do families deserve when that trust is broken? Harvard is paying $53 million and promising reforms. Cedric Lodge is in prison. A collector market that most people never knew existed is still largely unregulated. Families are still waiting for answers, and for money that will never restore what was taken. If you found this useful, comment with your thoughts on body donation programs and institutional accountability. Subscribe for more stories like this.